Hey folks, Ryan here from Mr. House Gaming Rants and Reviews, and I've got a good old review for you today. And today I'm going to be taking a look at Disney's Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances. I know it doesn't say it on the top of the box. It kind of says right there on the side, right? I guess so. Designed by Fletcher and published by The Op. And I must thank The Op for sending this game my way as a review copy. So take that as it is with a grain of salt. Of course, I'm going to be trying to give my honest opinions and review of this particular game, where 2 to 4, I guess, sorcerers are going to be, jamming these Disney characters into an arena, hopefully to battle for those ever so glorious victory points. Why don't you just join me at the table? I'm going to show you what's inside of the box and how to play Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances. Okay, well, let's take a look at what's inside of Disney's Sorcerer Arena Epic Alliances. And I must say, this is actually a really cool looking box. It's kind of got this kind of like this chest-like feel to it, or just chest-like look like it. So I'm going to go around. I can kind of like pretend like I'm opening up the lock and I'm unlocking the chest. And so let's take a look at what's going on inside. It's got a very cool aesthetic to it. So the first things I always like to take a look at is, let's take a look at that rule book, which does look very epic looking. It's got the kind of like, it looks like it's got kind of like the metal bindings on it with the little lock on the front page of the book here. And it is a kind of a hefty book. There is a lot in it, but it is laid out in a way that I actually really do enjoy, is that it does kind of break the game down in via there is a whole bunch of chapters. There's 4 chapters in this game. And the chapters kind of slowly introduce to you the game system. Whereas like chapter 1 here is going to kind of like outline a lot of the real basic things. You're only going to be playing with 2 characters per side. And they are pre-selected characters to kind of get you used to the system. And yeah, it's really going to kind of just teach you like how a few of the basic what do they call them, like status effects work, how movement works, how attacking is going to work, and the anatomy of the basic anatomies of the cards are all part of chapter 1. So a lot of the real basics, like how you're scoring points and all of that jazz. And the chapter 1 is actually a really good introduction, especially if you've never played this style of game before, which this game has the potential of that. It has the potential of a lot of people may not have played a skirmish battling 1v1 style of game, because some people may look at the Disney brand on it and they're going to pick this up for some people that may not be accustomed to this style of game. And then chapter 2 allows for a little bit more, where you kind of, now you get to select your own characters and picking like how the drafting of the characters work. And now you're going to be playing with 3 characters per side, and outlines how the initiative track is going to work. And there's a little bit of extra stuff that you can now do during your movement and your action phases. Chapter 3 starts outlining more of the character cards. Okay, you got the character cards with their special abilities that they're going to start introducing to, and what the icons are on the particular action. The character ability cards, which now adds a little bit more depth to the characters that you are playing. And then chapter 4 is full game mode. Now you can be able to upgrade your character cards by having certain cards in a discard pile type style. And then at the back here, there's a team variant where you can play as some teams. And that is all. And then in the very back, which is probably one of the most handy pieces of the rulebook, is the fact of the outlining of what do all of the different status effects. I can probably hold it up a little. What all the different status effects do, and that is all very, very handy to keep out and about on your table as you're playing the game, especially if you're playing in the full mode and you're starting to cast lots of these status effects onto different characters. Okay, put that aside here. We got on top here, we have the game board, which I will just slide this all off. And the game board, very simple, yet very functional. Kind of like your fourfold, nothing really fancy on the back here. And then here is your epic arena. It is very nice and very basic, very straightforward. There's no different styles of terrain other than your victory point markers at the beginning, in the center of the arena. So very well laid out, very nice. Probably maybe could have used something to do in these corners. I don't know. They're kind of like a little buried. You probably could have put a couple symbology things, maybe some brief summaries of those status effects. I don't know. That's just neither here nor there for me. But probably could have maybe made better use of these corners of the game board. Just maybe do a little bit of a summary of things that you could possibly do maybe on your turns or those status effects. So no complaints about that. It's a nice, big, thick, heavy-duty game board. Let's take a look at what's inside of the box. Now, this is currently how I have things stored, and that's because I had a real hard time after I punched everything out. I had a hard time storing everything. As you can kind of see here, this is a well here that does have the notches to kind of store character decks of cards, except for that's not where I have the decks of cards. I have my victory point tokens in a baggie, and I have the status markers in a baggie, decent cardboard, like nothing really. But then I have all of my, then I got all my rings. I got all the rings for the standees to designate your teams. Okay. And then I have all of my standees inside of this well where all the cards are supposed to be. And let's take a look at these, because these are actually probably the best component of the game, are these acrylic standees that kind of outline the art. So here's like Aladdin, outlines their art front and back. Magnificent. Here's Demona, front and back. Whoops. And we got we got Gaston here. Whoops, bring him into focus. We've got Sully, one of my favorite characters here. We got Sully. We've got, what do we got here? Maleficent. We've got Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey, which is, he's the kind of like the main character of the game. We've got Ariel. And we've got Dr. Oh gosh, his name is escaping me. Dr. Oh gosh. This is actually embarrassing. Let's find his deck of cards. In here, Dr. Facilier. That's it. Oh my gosh, that was embarrassing that I forgot what his name was. Type thing. Okay. So the standees, amazing quality. Amazing quality. A couple of them, especially Sully here, for me, in my game, his standee connecting to his base was actually very, very loose. He slid out of his base really quite easily, so I did a little bit of glue job to kind of glue him into his space. Everybody else was other than I think it was Mickey. He also was a little loose fitting, so I did glue him into his stand as well. Now, taking a look at these rings, though, this is one of my main complaints about the components of this game. As you can kind of see, these rings also have this little arrow thing, and all of the bases actually track also the hit points. So at the beginning of the game, you can go here and you can slide the ring on to the base. It snaps into place, so now that the arrow is pointing at Mickey's health. Now, here is the tough part about this game, is that when Mickey is on the board and Mickey here takes damage, well, I can't just simply slide this out. I actually have to pick Mickey up. I have to detach the base, rotate the base so that's now facing his new hit points, snap it back on, and place him back onto the table. It's actually kind of annoying. It's actually not kind of. It's actually really annoying, especially when you got all of the characters. Also, these arrows here are very hard to see when you're on the table of what hit points does everybody have. So we're probably going to come up with a different type of solution to this, probably just using a few dice just to track the hit points of our characters. So that's my only one real big complaint about the components of this game, are that these bases should only just be used as, tracking who's on what team. They are it's very annoying functionally trying to keep track of the health using the bases. Let's take a look at the character cards, because this is a very card-driven tactics style strategy kind of game, and every character has their own deck of cards. So here is, like on top here, this is Ariel's deck of cards. They're very, very nice. Decent card quality. I can see myself probably sleeving these in the near future, because when you're playing with kids, like, it's a decent card stock quality, but they are probably going to wear down over time, especially if you're going to be doing sleeving or you're going to be handling them a number of times during the course of your playing this game. Because what you're going to end up doing is you're actually going to be selecting your characters, and you're going to have to shuffle all these decks together. But the art on these cards, man, oh man, there's the art actually really kind of cool. Very much alive with the kind of staying true to the source material that it's all based off of. Yeah, there are lots of really cool card art. Lots of the cards are really the cards are really good quality. Okay, like I said, I might sleeve them a little bit after we play it once we play it quite a bit and everything like that. Put those in there. Oh, I forgot there's here's like a little token here to kind of track whose turn it is. We got the big cards here. We've got the reference cards, and they actually do have them broken down into chapters. So there's 2 chapter 1 references. So if you're just playing just the chapter 1 rules, there's a reference card of what you can do. And on the back side of this one is the chapter 2 reference, so that you can just play just as chapter 2 rules. And then there is the chapter 3-4 references, 2 of them broken right down. So depending which mode you want to play, or how difficult or in depth you want to be playing the game, you can actually just have just a reference card for each of those particular chapters, which is actually really quite thoughtful in for players. I like that. And then we've got the character cards themselves, and they are double-sided. This is a non-upgraded side of Gaston, and then on the other side he is an upgraded Gaston. And that's because denoted down here, it says upgrade. And once these conditions are met, I can flip the card over, and now he has another kind of special ability on him. And then all of the cards, these are the same card quality as the player cards, but these ones you're not going to be handling very, very often. And there is one of these big cards for all of the characters in the game so far. So really, really nice. And then the last thing is the thing that I had, the component that I had the most troubles trying to get into the box, because this well formerly used to have all of the standees in it. But if I put all the standees into this well, I have no place to put these actually particular tokens. Okay, well, I guess I could have put these tokens, into this well right here, but this well's meant for the cards. But if I put the cards in here, these don't fit anywhere else, and the standees wouldn't fit anywhere else. It's actually kind of a weird it's actually a very weird insert. I don't know. It's not very functional, especially when they have, if they're going to be coming out with some expansion material, you're going to probably want to chuck this anyways and probably kind of come up with our own custom way in order to store everything in this one. But what's inside here is all of the status effects. These are all the status effects, and there's a big old stack of them to kind of show you what status your particular character has. And then these other ones here, these are our player initiative tokens. Just kind of magic because they're going to kind of, they're just going to kind of line up. Red, blue, something like that along the side of the board. And then, of course, if somebody gets a status effect, let's say Sully gets cursed, I can take the curse token, and it actually just kind of slides right beside Sully, saying, hey, Sully is cursed now. And if, say, Demona can get flustered, and they kind of just stack. And if you get multiple status effects on somebody, maybe Sully gets cursed and flustered, I can kind of just keep stacking them towards one another, and they fit very perfectly. They fit very nicely. It's actually a really cool component to this game. All right. That's everything that's inside the core box so far. I'm really impressed with the card quality, the token quality. Standees are amazing in quality. Some of them, for me, did fit a little loose, but that's okay. I guess the only one that I actually had a problem with is Sully here. His ring, if you try to put a ring around him, it kind of just doesn't fit really nicely. You kind of have to bend the ring a little bit around him. There we go. Kind of got it. Fit around his tail. There we go, finally. And then I can snap the ring on for him. So Sully was kind of like one of the ones that I was really... that's because I glued his base on too. So his ring is going to be a little bit more tougher to come on and off. I have to really kind of bend and kind of flex that plastic in order to get it in and around him. So, okay. Those are the components. I'm going to get everything set up to play the game, and I'm going to teach you how to play Disney's Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances in the next segment. Well, okay, we are all set up for an epic showdown of alliances that we never thought would actually ever happen, but we can actually make happen during this game. This is Disney's Sorcerer's Arena. Now, I've already done a little bit of the pre-work here. Before you actually get going, by the way, I'm going to actually teach us the full game. We're going to go say, as we are looking at the chapter 3-4 reference card, I'm just going to go straight to that chapter 4 and kind of teach you a little bit of everything about that this game has to offer, right from the full. But of course, you can always go back and say, if you wanted to just play by the chapter 1 standard rules or gameplay, you can always just go back to the chapter 1 to see what you all can do. And then, of course, if you want to do the chapter 2, you can take a look at the chapter 2 stuff. But I'm going to be going through the chapter 3-4. Now, the initial part of the game is actually selecting of the characters, and it is done via a draft. So player 1 gets to select a character, and then player 2 gets to select 2 characters. Player 1 gets to select 2 characters, and then finally player 2 gets to select 1 more character, so that you make up a team of 3 Disney people. So I've already done that. And then, of course, the last thing that you do is after you've selected your characters, you are then going to kind of determine. So, like, here's the red players' characters. And the red player just determined this is the order in which they want to have their characters activate. And then the blue player has selected how they want the order in which they want their characters to activate. And the first person, if I take a look at these 2 stacks here, I see that there's a little initiative number, 16 and 79 here. Of the first character that they want activated, whoever has the lowest initiative number, that is the person that's going to get to go first. So when you start setting up the turn order, this is now going to go, okay, player 2, player 1. So it goes player 2, player 1, kind of like that. Then player 2, player 1, kind of go like that. Player 2, player 1, just how this game ended up being. And yeah, and these tiles are double-sided to represent red and blue. And then here is the kind of the activation token saying, okay, Aladdin is going to be the first person to activate. So I'm going to put it on Aladdin, and they are now going to be the first player. Now, playing with the full rules, then we got the character cards here. And the character cards also determine our initial hand size. We're going to take a look at player 2's here. And we're going to kind of take a look at some of the stats on this card, and one of the stats are these card icons here. So what you would do is you would add up all of these card icons in here, in this case 2, 1, and 2 for 5. So player 2 here is going to start off with a hand size of 5 cards, and they are now then just going to draw those. They can just draw them straight off the top of their deck. 2, 3, 4, 5, and they are ready to go. And if I take a look at the blue player here, you can see that their stats are 2, 2, and 2. So they are actually going to just draw a hand size of 6 cards to start them off. I'm just going to reset these back up here. Kind of like that. And oh gosh, how did this go? Yeah, kind of like that. So then these guys are going to start off with a hand size of 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they're good to go. All right. So what you're going to do on your turn, if we follow the thing, first you're going to check for status effects and victory points. Now, at some time, you're going to have some of these status effect things are going to be placed on your characters, and they are going to have some of these tokens on them. When they come into play, they're going to have some of these tokens on them. Let's say this guy was cursed twice. At the start of his activation, they are going to remove one of those counters. And for this round, he's going to still be cursed. And if the last token were to be removed during this phase, well, then that person is no longer has that particular status effect on them. Also, we would check to see if they are still, if that character is still currently on one of these victory point spaces, because if they are, and at the beginning of their activation, they will claim a victory point. The next thing would be to check to see if that character has been KO'd. So let's just say if it was Gaston's turn, and if he was KO'd, he would actually be like not on the map. He would be beside his activation, and if it was now time for him to activate, he can now return back to the board in one of the starting area spaces. Next thing is that you get to draw one card. So you get to draw a new card for your particular turn. And now comes the bulk of the action, which is movement, action, and skills. And you can perform these in any order, and you can perform them only once each. So let's take a look at movement. Every character has a standard movement type. So in case of Mickey here, he's got a standard movement of 2, which means he's allowed to move 2 spaces just anytime during the movement action. Aladdin over here, he's got the standard movement of 3, so he can move 3 spaces as just a standard move action. And moving would just mean just taking them going 1, 2, 3, just like that. Now, you are allowed to boost that standard move action because all of our cards here also have movement and attack icons on them. The red ones are attack and green are movement. So I'm allowed to say if it's Aladdin's turn, he's allowed to move standard move of 1, 2, 3. But if I wanted him to move 1 extra space, I can discard any one of these movement cards. And it doesn't have to be an Aladdin movement card. It actually could be this Mickey's Sorcerer's Apprentice card, and I could just discard that card to give him 1 extra movement. Or, if in case on this turn, if I had an Aladdin movement card, instead of doing the standard move action, I could actually play this move card. I just play it, and I would resolve the text that's below. And generally, these movement cards, instead of doing the standard action, are actually quite a bit better to play out. Like this one would say, move up to 4 spaces, and Aladdin may pass through rivals. Each summoner who controls 1 or more rivals pass through this way puts a random card from their hand on top of their deck. So he dashes through the crowds and he kind of steals things from them. So that's actually a pretty good card. Probably not great to play off at the very beginning of the game, but you know what? It is pretty darn good. So then I could play that card instead of doing the standard move. I could play this as a move action. The other thing that you could do is that you can also do an action phase. And this is generally where lots of the attacking comes from. And every character, let's say like Aladdin here, he's got a standard attack of 2. And it's got this little symbol beside it says that is going to be direct damage. So as long as he's adjacent to another character, he can deal 2 damage. And as a basic action. Now he can also bump up that action by taking a look at the hand of cards, and if we have those red action cards, you can discard it to do 1 extra damage to that, just like the movement. Or instead of doing the standard action, you can actually play a action card on it. And this one, for example, this one says deal 3 damage to an adjacent rival. If that rival summoner has more cards in hand than you, you get to deal 4 damage instead. So it does quite a bit better than the standard damage action. What else you can do on your turn is that you can activate your character's special skills. So in this case, for Aladdin here, it says 1 jump ahead. It says discard any what is that? Kind of like any action card from your hand and give Aladdin 1 stealthy. So you can give him a stealthy status effect from the status effect piles, and he'll give him 1 of those, and so he'll have that for the rest of the turn. And also this one also says he's got Thief's Cure. Reveal the top card of a rival's summoner's deck. If that rival's card matching that card is adjacent to Aladdin, Aladdin gets a heal 1, which is actually kind of cool. So you can also activate your skills once per turn as well. And as soon as you've done all of your things, then the play is going to pass to the next player. Oh, sorry. There is more actions. So you got discard down to your maximum hand limit. So if you do have more cards in your cards, your maximum hand limit is what's dictated by your cards. And then it's the end of your turn. And at the end of your turn, then it's going to pass on to the next player, where they will now run through all of these steps once again. And play is going to go back and forth like this, or until lots of things are going to start happening. People are going to start coming in near each other. Lots of players are going to be adjacent and whatnot, and damage is going to be being dealt back and forth by doing the standard actions or attack actions in our cards, and eventually players are going to get knocked out. And it's going to happen. It's kind of cannonballs. It kind of snowballs at one point in time. But as soon as characters start getting knocked out, that is where the victory points start flowing. Because on all the player cards, you can see that there is health. So for Aladdin here, he's got 9 health. But if Aladdin were to ever be knocked out, their opponent would get 6 victory points. Whereas Mickey here, he's got 8 health, and he's only worth 4 victory points. And if I take a look at, where is he over here? Over here, Sully. He's got lots of health. He's got 11 health. But also, because of that, he's also worth 7 victory points. And what's the purpose of victory points? Well, you want to have the most victory points by the end of the game. A game can end one of two different ways. The game can end when a summoner's deck runs out of cards, or if one of the players has collected 20 victory points. And those are the two different ways that this game can actually end. One more thing that can be played is because you can discard your cards to gain those basic, like an extra basic movement or an extra basic action, or to play them for a movement or action, and they're going to get discarded. And all of the cards in these decks also have these little, what they refer to as gear symbols. And there's a bunch of different types of these gear symbols. What does it matter for these gear symbols? Well, every character in their bottom left here has an upgrade cost. So if Aladdin has 2 of these symbols and 2 of these symbols in the discard pile, we can get rid of those 2 cards. We can get rid of those 4 cards, and get rid of them. Like, they're gone out of the game, and you can upgrade Aladdin. And upgrading means you flip his card over, and now he's got another ability that's always active for the rest of the game. So choosing which one of your characters you upgrade at certain times really plays into the strategy of this particular game. So they can see here, Gaston here, he's got a different combination of symbols that he wants to order to upgrade. And Mickey, he has a different set of symbols that he requires you to be able to upgrade. And yes, that play is going to go back and forth until somebody reaches 20 victory points or somebody's deck runs out of cards. And play is going to pass and go forward, back and forth. It's going to go down the line here while people are activating. And when it gets to the end of the line, of course, it's going to start all the way back to the beginning of the initiative track order. And play is going to continue until one of those 2 end of game matches is met. And I might add, to keep track of your victory points, they give you a nice little baggie of victory points of 1s and 5s, just to kind of keep track of how many points you got. And that is essentially how you play Disney Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances. It's actually really kind of cool. All right. Join me back at the studio, and I'm going to share you with some of my thoughts about the gameplay and how some of my experiences while doing Disney's Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances. All right. Well, that was Disney. Whoa, oh my gosh. This is always such a mouthful. Disney's Sorcerer's Arena Epic Alliances. Let's give you some of my thoughts about this game. Now, first off, I actually did not even know that this game was actually already kind of like a video game or app type thing that you can play. So I guess the app video game has come out first. Now we have a tabletop version of this. My experience with this game is that I had actually no idea that thing actually existed. So I guess if you're a fan of the video game, I'm going to assume you may end up being a fan of this particular style of game. Now, on that note, this is a skirmish style of game where one person is going to be assembling a team of, well, Disney characters. We've got Sully, we got Ariel, we got the Sorcerer Mickey, we got Gaston, we got a whole bunch of characters inside of this core set box that, and it's a good range of characters that a lot of people are going to be very familiar with. So I think they did a pretty good job of selecting a good initial set of characters. And of course, room to expand, which, spoiler alert, there are already 2 expansions coming out. One coming out in July, and so not just around the corner here. So a new set of 3 characters are going to be available. And then a couple months later than that, there's going to be another set of characters. And of course, there is an infinite, what seems like an infinite possibilities here to expand this style of game. So yes, one person's going to assemble a team, the other person's going to assemble a team, and these characters are going to get mismatched because, we've got good guys and villains on the same team. It's pure chaos. It's pure fun, and just trying to create those kind of really funny combinations of the particular characters here. Now, at that, it is a skirmish style game, so we are going to have two people really duking it out. So you're going to be moving across this kind of this hex map, very basic hex map, which is okay. Don't have to complicate things with terrain types and different terrain effects and everything. The only really special ones are those kind of victory point places in the middle of the board, because if you can control one of those at the start of your next turn, well, you get a victory point type style. So it doesn't convolute that. You're going to be moving across the terrain, and you're going to be punching and dealing all this damage to all these different characters. So like that. Now, let's talk about the rule book and the way that this game introduces people to this style of system. It is broken into 4 chapters, and chapter number 1 being very, very basic. Very introductory. You have never played this style of game before. You do not know what you're going to get yourselves into. Very nice, easy. You're only controlling 2 characters per side, and you're not even introduced the standard the character card yet. All you're allowed to do is just do your kind of like your basic moves and your basic attacks, and maybe play down some cards to kind of boost those up. Maybe play some extra abilities on some of those cards. You're not going to be doing a lot of really crazy things on those particular things. That the particular characters don't have their special skills yet. And then chapter 2 introduces the concept of drafting your characters and setting the turn initiatives. And it was chapter 3 finally introduces you to the character card and the actual character's special abilities. Now, if you've already played a couple games already with those introductory, you don't have to worry about those things now, because you kind of hopefully have gotten used to the card play system and how to move and how to attack. And now you can add on finally that final layer that really makes this game kind of start to shine, and that's the character abilities themselves. And all the characters do something very crazy and very thematic to their particular characters. Like Sully there, he's the big burly monster guy, and he's going around. He can deal tons of damage. He's also got tons of health. But then we've also got characters like Aladdin, who's very sneaky, moving around. He's got lots of movement, and he's very good at disarming cards out of people's hands and just kind of doing little bits of damage to a lot of people very sneakily around the board. And then we've got Maleficent that can just kind of like zoom across the board and deal tons of damage. And oh my gosh, so many different really cool abilities that these characters have, not just in their cards, but their special skills. And then finally, chapter 4 unveils that you can now upgrade your characters. As soon as this certain number of cards of a certain type are in the discard pile, you can banish those cards, get them really out of the game, and now your character has something even more special to them that's always active. So I really like that progression, and I've went on record here that I really like this type of system that teaches players how to play this particular style of game. Especially, this game has got the Disney brand on it from the op. And there are a lot of people that are going to see Disney characters on the box. Sorcerer's Arena, cool, that sounds really fun. I'm going to pick up that game for my kids. Pay attention too, though, because these cards do have quite a bit of text on them. So if you're introducing this to children as a game, you are probably going to be very limited into the style of play you're going to play. Probably only chapter 1, maybe chapter 2 style of difficulty. And they're going to need a lot of help with some of the text on those cards. My son is 6. He's been playing with this, but he's still having troubles kind of associating which card is going to do what. So I kind of have to help them along and everything. Now, the advertised play, I think, is about 13, 14 plus on the box here. And that's going to kind of seem about right. And I don't know, maybe around, I can see once they start learning how to read really, really well, and they can kind of understand what they're reading, you can introduce this kind of thing maybe to some older children, probably maybe around that 9 years old, 10 years old mark, could probably start picking up this game relatively quickly. The components of this game are really, really good, minus the fact of those ring stands, or the rings that go on the standees. Oh my goodness gracious. I know exactly what they were going for. They're trying to keep the cost of this game down. It is the op. They're going to get this into some big box stores and everything like that. But keeping track of the health is, oh my goodness, so great. It is painful. It is painful keeping track of that, because I gotta take a character's gonna take some damage. I gotta lift the standee off the board a little bit. I've got to pop the ring off, rotate it, slide the ring back on, put the character back on the table. It seems to be like a lot of process. I really wish that we could have had those little rings that kind of like rotate and click kind of thing, but maybe they don't have the rights to be able to do something like that. Or again, they're trying to keep the cost of the game down. So we're going to quickly substitute those rings. The rings are going to be used for identifying who is part of what team, but we already have some dice that we're going to place on the character, kind of like hourglass shape, to kind of keep track of what their health are at any given time. So that's one of my main. The clear acrylic standees are the piece de la resistance of the production of this game. Those things are super fantastic. I'm so glad that they went with this style, because it really kind of captures the art style and the colorfulness of Disney, rather than those gray plastic miniatures that I am never going to paint. So I think they nailed it right on the head. I think they're keeping the price point down. They don't need the miniatures of this game. The standees are just absolutely top quality. My copy that I ended up getting as a review here did have a couple standees that didn't fit into their little slots here. They were very loose. Everything else had a very nice tight fit to them, but those other ones, so I ended up having to glue a couple. And unfortunately, I had to glue Sully into his space, and he's kind of bigger. So trying to fit the ring around him is, you have to kind of do a little bit of creative bending of the ring to kind of really slide it around and get it on him, now that I've glued the standee into its position. Let's take a look at the cards. The card play of this game is really, really good, in my mind, because the cards have the multiple uses. You can discard cards just to boost up the standard movement or standard action. A lot of cards can replace the standard move or the standard attack action. And there's actually some cards too that I don't think that I highlighted in my components, but there's some cards in there that are actually dual. They can be played as either a attack action or as a move action, and they have, I call them the super cards, because they actually can do both things. They can do usually move and attacking at the same time. So you can probably sneak out some move, a double move or a double attack type thing. So I forgot to mention those cards, but those cards are really, really good. Setting up this game, though, does take a little bit of time, because you do have to draft your characters. So some people may decide that take a little time to decide their characters, but once you've decided your characters, now you have to take their 3 separate decks of cards, and you have to shuffle them together. So that takes a little bit of time, especially if you want to make sure you get a really good shuffle, so that not all of the cards are of the same person that you draw in your opening hand, which can possibly happen if it's not a well shuffled deck of cards. I can draw my opening hand of 5 or my opening hand of 6, and I draw like all of one character. And that may be like my last character that activates. That is just something that could possibly happen in this game. So make sure that those cards do get really, really well shuffled. But the duality of the cards, of being able to boost or just playing them as their actions, really quite neat. And also being able to pay attention to getting those gear icons into the discard pile, so that you can upgrade 1, hopefully 2 of your characters, at least minimum. Try to upgrade all of your characters by the time the game is done, so that you have all these crazy abilities flying around left, right, and center to really take advantage of the skirmish system. So And I really like that part, because I am the guy that, as my first few actions, especially if I don't have like certain characters, I'm trying to pitch cards just to boost up those basic actions. I'm just trying to pitch cards so that I can hopefully, after maybe 4 cards, at bare minimum, after 4 cards are in my discard pile, I'm hoping that I'm upgrading one of my particular characters, trying to get them upgraded early, because their abilities are so good and so much fun to play with. So, I'm gushing about this game, because I really don't have many negatives other than some of those component quality issues. This is actually a pretty decent skirmish style game. I can actually see a lot of different people playing this game. This is not meant just for kids. This is actually a game that adults can also really enjoy, especially if you enjoy the head-to-head battling style of games. They do it actually very well, and a game doesn't take a very long time either. Like I'm saying, we're talking like 30 to 45 minutes for a particular game, as long as no one has analysis paralysis and taking too long to think about what they're going to do on their turns. Because of that snowball, like you're going to spend the first few turns, everybody's kind of getting into position, but as soon as the damage starts getting dealt, well, man, characters are starting to get knocked out every other round, and the victory points from those are starting to pile up and gather, and you only need 20 victory points to win the game. We've actually often found, if I think about it, all of our games have ended with the 20 victory point marker reach before actually our deck of cards has run out, which is the other way that you can actually end the game. So, yeah, I can see a lot of different people playing this game, not just kids, adults as well. My wife and I have actually really enjoyed this game. So, kudos Sean Fletcher. I think you've got yourself something really special in this game, and of course you've got expansions coming out very, very shortly, just to expand the repertoire of characters that you can choose from. So many different combinations can be made, and I actually we've only just scratched the surface of this particular game. We actually haven't even found a combination that's like quote unquote overpowered or anything yet, because everything just seems so well balanced. I'm gonna put it in that term. Everything, I haven't found that combination that just kind of runs away with the game. Everything works so well together. So yeah, I can see this appealing to people that play skirmish style games, and they maybe want something maybe just a little bit on the lighter end and a little bit more accessible. I can see stores hosting these Disney Sorcerers Arena tournaments, and a whole wide range of players can play this style of game because of the chapter system as well and everything. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to just start rambling now. I'm really enjoying this game. I'm waiting to see what more they have to offer with this, what they're going to do to expand the content, and who is going to get introduced into this game. I cannot wait. So, I've been Ryan of Mr. Row's Gaming Rants and Reviews, and if you're enjoying the content of my channel here, I encourage you to please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you get notified when new videos are arriving. And drop a comment below the description of this video. Are you intrigued by Disney Sorcerers Arena? Are you going to be looking at picking this game up? And if you've played this game, what's your favorite combination of characters? I would be really, really intrigued to hear some of those thoughts. All right, folks. I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to say goodnight. And this review is officially over.